And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Buck with you. Buck, what's going on, man?
Man, not too much, DJ. You know how it is. We're already in the thick of it. This weekend, go to New Orleans.
Nice.
Got the Sunday game. Where are you at this week? What do you have?
It's a home road game. So it's at the Rams. Same building. I move over 2 stalls. Let MJD have the Palace. You know, we just kind of sneak down a couple booths down there to the left. So we'll be at SoFi.
That's cool. Yeah, so that's it, man. It's crazy, right? Because the preseason is – it's funny. I was doing a pod. They were talking about, like, the dog days of training camp. And I was like, but do we really have dog days? I mean, are we really in the dog days? I mean, I know we're kind of at that point, but I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out, like, the rhythm of the 3-game preseason.
Yeah.
Like when you
still
play
feels
your
weird. It
starters,
feels like it's short.
yeah, when you play your starters, when don't you play your starters? Like, how do we treat preseason game number 3? Is it live? Is it not? There's a long time between preseason game 3 and the regular season. So I think everyone is figuring it out. And also, just because someone asked me this, like, DJ, if you were in charge of a team and you see the charges and how they go about it, are you more in line with, hey, I'm going to play my guys and ramp up to the regular season? Or are you more, I want to get to the starting line with everybody available? So, hey, whatever it looks like in the preseason, young guys can have it, but my starters aren't touching the field.
I am a joint practice guy. Like, give me. I like to do it with 2 different teams just to get some high speed reps where I can protect my quarterback. And I ain't playing him a snap in the preseason. No chance. like any of those guys. Like, I just don't. You just want to get out the starting line, man. You don't want the season to be over before it starts.
So I am with you on that. But then the only thing that I put out there is when you make that, so you make that decision, how do you ensure that your team gets off to a fast start? So, for instance, the Cincinnati Bengals have been, 0-2 and 5 or 6 seasons that Zach Taylor's been there. Like, what is the counter to get your team clicking and going, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was hoping that you can just get those full speed reps with, with joint practices, and that, maybe, a quarter of real speed football is not going to be that much different, in terms of the preparation. Like, is that 1 quarter that you're playing your guys going to be the difference to get you ready to go week 1? I don't know. I think everybody's got to know their team too. But, yeah, that's I think the joint practice kind of solved that. In the past, if you didn't have joint practice, like, yeah, you got to get in some full speed work, just so you can get yourself acclimated and get up to speed and get ready to go. But I thought the joint practice kind of eliminated the need for that.
Okay, so here's the thing, and hopefully I'm not sharing insider secrets, but so the Jags were trying to get the joint practices, but couldn't get them. There's something conflict on dates or whatever. So they have one set with the Miami Dolphins next week, but it didn't have one this week. So it's funny because they're playing New Orleans. New Orleans is having a joint practice, I think, today against the Rams.
Yeah.
So the Jags are having a scrimmage with themselves, trying to kind of get that work, that full speed work that you would get without having to joint practice. I just wonder, can you get it done internally, having, in essence, like a couple of teal and white scrimmages, preseason games, and not really exposing your guys to the thing? I am with you. You don't have a shot if you don't have your guys.
Yeah.
Like, and no matter what, we can say it all. If your A guys are out, you don't have a shot. You at least want to get to the starting line with your guys. And if they get injured in the season, that's one thing. But you would like to get to the regular season with your people ready to go.
Yeah, I think it would be easier for me to deal with maybe losing a game or 2 early in the season and being like, maybe we could have done more. I think I'd be okay with that versus, man, we went hard, but we're missing 2 guys for the start of the season. Like, that's the worst option to me.
I'm with you on that. I think there's a lot of truth to, hey, we want to get them there, but I want to get to the starting line with my A team. And if my A team is not good enough, that's cool. But I would like to at least see what it looks like the first 2 or 3 weeks when we have our guys.
Yeah. But I do like the idea of kind of ramping up, as you're going through training camp, and like, unlike, like say like the Dodgers bullpen, you want to finish strong. You want to be able to finish strong and get rolling. By the way, my neck is bothering me because I keep looking down at the Dodgers in the standings, and my neck's a little sore.
It just finally took place, but as we all know, like none of it matters until we get to September and October. So we'll be
I know,
fine.
but it does feel good, man. It does feel good.
I
You know,
mean,
you know what I realized, by the way, the last baseball conversation here, last take. The Padres haven't won the division since 2006. 2006, Buck.
Well, how confident are you that they're going to win it now? They're not going to win the division.
I feel good. I feel we got a better team.
They're going.
We got a better team than Dodgers. But
they're going to fade.
They're not going to fade. I couldn't believe that. 2006. I was working with the Ravens in 2006. That's a million years ago. I was watching Steve McNair sling the ball around to Todd Heap in 2006.
Well, I mean, for a while there, I mean, it was Giants. Dodgers have been of late.
Dodgers have won 11 of the last 12 divisions. Like, that's not been anybody else. The Giants lucked into 1 year, and that was it.
I think didn't Diamondbacks win one too? Didn't they get one?
They've beat them in the playoffs. Everybody beats the Dodgers in the playoffs, but I mean, like, just in terms of like the regular season stuff, you know.
So I know Dodgers, you can relate to this. I'm actually okay with it because it reminds me of it as
it's
a kid.
The Braves.
You always got to win it. You got to at least be in it, and so we're guaranteed to be in it. That always gives you a chance.
Yeah, but then like the San Francisco Giants would get in, like just win the World Series 3 times, and like they'd only make the playoffs 3 times, but every time they got in, they would win the World Series during those.
Like
series.
The Miami Marlins.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
I just want one. That's all. I'm not greedy. I get one. I will never hear me talk about baseball ever again.
You're lying because once you get one, you want another. Like there's no such thing. There's no like the Cubs fans that were like, oh, we just want to win this one. That's it. No, once you get a taste of it, like you always want to go back to the well.
To be fair, I don't know how I would act because I don't have any experience.
You would be insufferable. You would be insufferable.
Would be.
I know that. You'd be insufferable.
So I listened to the Dodgers post-game talk show, Dodger Talk. It's on Money Station on 570 only after they lose games because I revel in it. So I'm on a text thread with Money and Petros and Tim Cates, who does a lot of the post-game shows. And so I had texted him during the Dodger game last night. And this is like the 7th inning, and Dodgers are winning at this time. I said, I'm so torn right now. Yes, I'd love to see the Dodgers blow another game. I just don't think I can stay up for another Dodger talk. I need some sleep. And then the Dodgers blew the game once again. And I wrote, I'll sleep tomorrow. Dodger talk. Let's ride.
So bad.
All right. I want to hit on some second-year wide receivers, Buck. We're going to get to some defensive topics here in a minute, but I want to start this thing off football-wise on second-year wideouts because that group, we loved them up in the draft process last year, and I think there's a lot of interesting guys in this mix. So I'm going to kind of give you some names here of some players, and then I want to get anything that stood out to you or what you've seen talking to guys, what you've seen in a little bit of preseason. But you got Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Brian Thomas Jr., Xavier Worthy. Then it was Pearsall, Leggett, Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk, Adonai Mitchell. Like that's going down a couple more here. Malachi Corley, Jermaine Burton, Roman Wilson. That's a good chunk of guys there. So those second-year players, I've got a couple notes on a couple guys, but I didn't know if there's anybody that stood out to you that you're looking forward to seeing this year.
Well, look, man, I'm going to say this because Marvin Harrison Jr. to me is intriguing just because, people don't talk about him. Like you hear a lot of conversation about Malik Neighbors, a lot of conversation about Brian Thomas Jr. Even Roma Dunze has garnered some conversation, but it is relatively quiet around the desert when it comes to Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, visually, physically, he looks like a different animal. He's bulked up a little bit. He's done those things or whatever. But I want to see if he can hold it down like we expected him to hold it down. There are some concerns. Like people talking about the speed, the burst, and all that. Didn't do any of the testing and those things. And the season was solid. It was okay, but it wasn't quite what you expected, given the fanfare that surrounded him for so much of his career at Ohio State. I want to see how they maximize his talent, how they kind of meet him where he's at, so that if he isn't going to be one of those transcendent stars like a Larry Fitzgerald, how can they get the production to validate where they picked him in the draft?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of their preseason game, went through and watched the tape on that. Bucky just kind of looks like a big slot. And I'm still hopeful he's going to be productive. I think to me, you got to change your expectations a little bit. I don't think he's going to be, like his dad was catching 100 bazillion balls a year. I think you're gonna measure his impact with touchdowns and then maybe some third down stuff with just his size as someone who works in the middle of the field. But I don't want to use the word it's Oozer is like the low end of it. And then if you were going to be complimentary, you'd say cruiser. So like an Oozer cruiser type versus just I don't feel him. I don't feel his juice or speed at all.
Okay, so let's pull this out. If Marvin Harrison Jr. had a career that was comparable to Marcus Colston, how would you feel about that? Because when you talk about big slot,
it's a really good player, but not worth picking as the second overall pick or whatever he was.
Yeah, and so like Marcus Colston was kind of like the giant slot receiver, kind of made it in vogue to put him as the number 3. He could do some stuff, caught a ton of balls.
He had to walk so Michael Thomas could run, basically.
I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, like that's kind of what it is. Now, you hope that Marvin Harrison Jr. can do maybe more of the Michael Thomas thing, but right now he's kind of pegged in that role. Larry Fitzgerald jumped in the role at the end of his career, not at the beginning. And so it's just a hard hustle right now for Marvin Harrison Jr. He carries the weight of the name on his back, but right now the game hasn't necessarily lived up to some of the hype that preceded his arrival.
Well, I think you're hoping you're just going to get double-digit touchdowns. Like he's going to, be that size.
Red zone weapon.
Yeah,
do some things, move the chains. Maybe he can become a Chris Carter type. Maybe he can do some things that you can find a way to do it. But right now, one-on-one on the outside, it looks like it's a bit of a struggle consistently for him to win against the premier guys on the perimeter.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious to see what it looks like once we get to the regular season and all that. There's a whole laundry list. I gave you a bunch of guys there. Roma Dunze is one that I'm really excited about to see what's the next step for him. I think to me, just getting more opportunities and getting more accurate balls. Hopefully that's something that's coming his way with Caleb taking a step forward with Ben Johnson this year. But I think he's going to be really solid. There's a couple down the line guys I wanted to hit on. A.D. Mitchell, I think we might have referenced him the other day, but Adonai Mitchell has had a really good camp by all accounts. Go back and watch the preseason game. You see him win on a comeback. You see him win on a dig. This is just not somebody who, with his speed, he can run. Is not just going to be a vertical player. He's got the capabilities of being a full route tree guy and an impact player. And I will see what the quarterback position looks like for the Colts. But I liked what I saw and I like what I've heard on A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, I think he has a better chance of being an impact player if Daniel Jones is the quarterback, just because of Daniel's ability to stick in the pocket, hang, and go through the progressions. I think it's easier for Shane Steichen to make sure that A.D. Mitchell is heavily involved in the game plan. What we loved about him when he was coming out is the speed, the explosiveness, the burst, what he could do. And as a compliment to what they have in Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, there are a lot of balls that can head in his direction. You just got to make sure that the quarterback play is solid. That's the number one question for the Colts. Can they get enough production and quality performance from the quarterback to be able to tap into all the weapons that they have? Because offensively, they do have enough weapons to be able to compete with the high-end talent teams in the league.
No question. Last year, Ladd McConkey had a huge year for the Chargers, monster year. Was really looking like he could end up being a top 5 type receiver in the NFL, like that type of crazy production in his future. Now, Keenan Allen gets signed, and I saw McConkey had a quote the other day where he was like, people are saying, how is this going to work with Keenan? Because they think I'm a slot only guy. Did they not watch me last year? Like I play outside, I play anywhere. So I don't know that that's going to heavily impact the amount of targets. I still think that passing game is going to go through Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what Keenan is he's the old trusty vet. Kind of like the old shoes that you like to put on around the house every now and then, where Justin Herbert can go to him in some situations, but not all situations. Ladd McConkey certainly has earned the trust of not only the quarterback, but of the coaching staff. To me, he is still wide receiver 1, no matter who they bring in and what they've done. His quickness, his ability to separate, his versatility makes him dangerous. And in a run-heavy offense where he's ensured of getting one-on-one coverage, he's going to wear people out on the perimeter.
Now, one more I wanted to hit you on. I don't know if this guy's going to be active on game day just because it's a numbers game. But I did like what I saw in the first preseason game from Roman Wilson. Wilson played fast. He looked fast. They got him ball a little bit down the field, but then to me, it's a quick hitters. Get the ball in his hands, let that speed play. And to me, Aaron Rodgers, there's like Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback at this point in time where there's a shot clock. To me, you can almost watch it and say, okay, if he holds the ball beyond this time, no bueno. He's going to take sacks. There's going to be some concern about putting the ball maybe in jeopardy. I think that he's at his best, especially at this age when he is on time, in rhythm, back foot, gone. And I think Roman Wilson, and if they can find a role for him, they just got they got a numbers game that they got to work with here with Robert Woods and DK and all the other guys that they've got in the mix there. It's like Scotty Miller's someone there. So I don't know how they fit him in, but I liked what I saw from him in a preseason game.
Well, I think he definitely fits in. And I would say in watching pregame warmups now, Rodgers was working with DK primarily, but you can see all these guys work out. And what I will say is when you look at Roman Wilson, his stop-start quickness, his route running ability, all the savvy that he displayed at Michigan was on full display during that game, pregame and during the game. I think there's a role for him. I just think of Pittsburgh and how successful that they've been traditionally finding those receivers on day two. I think he's the next one that's going to be a solid starter. He's a nice compliment to DK Metcalf. It's literally how do they find a role with him? And do they have to make a hard decision in terms of Robert Woods or Roman Wilson? Like, how do they go about that? But it comes down to trust. And I think the more that he plays and performs at a high level during the preseason, the more likely he will be to earn the trust of the coaches and the quarterback.
All right. If I told you not, and I'm not going to get you in trouble with the Jags here, but Brian Thomas Jr. is awesome as he was last year and what we see with him going forward. If I told you had to go play a game tomorrow and I gave you your choice of the two LSU receivers between Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., who you rolling with? I got a fantasy football draft coming up, Buck. I think I pick 6 or 7, something like that. I'm going to take it one of those two guys.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Now, I go back to my original conversation. Cortez Hankton from LSU had talked about both of those guys. And he talked about Malik Neighbors is the dog, but Brian Thomas Jr. is the more talented and gifted playmaker. And I would say being around him, I think he exhibits dog quality, but it's just in a quiet package. So I'm gonna go with him over Neighbors. And I know Neighbors is an absolute animal on the thing, but there is something to watching Brian Thomas Jr. And I go back to I was on the sideline. I don't know if it was a Cleveland game. It's one. DJ, I know we've all been at games where you see the ball go up and the receiver is trying to track it down. And you're like, there is no way. And then you look up and they hit another gear. Brian Thomas Jr. has that extra gear to go get the deep ball that is hard to find. It's rare to find in a playmaker. And he might be one of the unique guys that is a true number one receiver, but also has the big play potential. I'm rocking with him because there can be a lot of things that we see from this offense that reminds people of the 2018, 2019 LA Rams when Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp and all those guys were kind of getting busy doing a bunch of different creative things on play action across the middle of the field.
You know what's nuts? I was looking at from last year. Receiving yardage leaders last year. Jamar Chase was 1. Justin Jefferson was 2. Brian Thomas was 3. Malik Neighbors was 7. 4 of the top 7, including the top 3, all LSU receivers. I think Malik Neighbors could easily get up there in that top 4. You could have a situation where the top 4 receivers are all LSU receivers, and they could be followed by the 2 USC receivers in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Drake London. Like that could be the top 6 receivers in the NFL could come from 2 schools. That's nuts.
That is nuts. And I got a nutty conversation for you. I think you know Jerry Sullivan, wide receiver coach, dad of John Eric Sullivan, great personnel guy with the Green Bay Packers. Anyway, we were in the airport together a couple of weeks ago. He was heading out to go actually work with Larry Fitzgerald's son. He was going to train him out in San Diego. All those guys going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the home of the former NFL players. So he's doing anyway. Jerry and I talk, and I'll never forget. Like he gave me a hard time because I didn't rank Justin Jefferson high up when he was coming out. So anyway, he was doing a comparison. I think this is good for us when we talk about wide receivers. He was saying, in coaching Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, he said it's such an interesting thing that you can have 2 guys who are highly productive but be so different stylistically. And Justin Jefferson, he talked about despite being a 2-star recruit and all that. He's like, Buck, this dude is a competitive dog, a competitive maniac, but his route running, how clean he is, all of that stuff is fluid. He said in Jamar Chase, it will never look as clean as Justin Jefferson, but he said you have to remember he is a running back on the perimeter.
Horsepower.
And he said that if you keep that in mind and know that it's not stylistically what you always want on the perimeter, but when the ball's in his hands, it is a completely different thing. And when I look at those guys, and you do look at the physical differences, it's just amazing to me that we're in time in the National Football League when these guys come in different sizes and shapes and flavors, but yet they still can put up the kind of numbers that are extraordinary, no matter how you play, no matter how your style is.
All right, that's going to lead me, as we wrap up this discussion here, to my scouting term of the week here. I always love talking to different people in different sports and then taking different terminology and applying it. And this is one that I've just heard a lot. I've heard a lot this year. I've heard it from baseball guys. I've also heard it from some football buddies, but I've never used it in a report. And man, I think there's something to it. And it might have been Les Snead was talking about this a little bit. Jason Light was talking about this a little bit. And then some baseball GM buddies I was talking to used the same. So I'm like, man, there's something to this if everybody's talking about this. But they use the term care factor. I was like, you know what? I like that. I like that phrasing of it. Like, oh, he loves football, blah, blah, blah. And they said, no, this is a care. Like this guy cares. It's important to him. And that's reflected in the time that he spends. That's his focus. That's his focus in practice, as well as in his training. Like there's just a care factor there. And I thought that was interesting, just the way you describe it, those receivers, different skill sets, but there's a high care factor for both those guys.
It's funny because that appears to be the thing that has really jumped into the scouting process the last year or so. People really wanted to dive into, do players really love ball? And then the other part of it is, can you create an environment where that is what it is? It's about the ball. It's about loving ball and not about all the other stuff that can impact the player, like building a brand or all these other things that can take you away from the main thing being the main thing. And maybe it's just being around the Rams of late, like we were last week, being able to see them enjoying practice where it is really an environment about ball, and being around Mike Tomlin and the Steelers and watching them where they talk about, hey, man, it's pretty simple, man. It's about effort and toughness and do you love ball, and the relationships that come from people who love ball being together. To me, DJ, that's the secret sauce, and that's really the separating factor between why some guys make it and why some don't, is do you love it enough to do whatever it is you need to do to maximize everything that you have on the inside? That comes from the love of the game. That doesn't come from anywhere else.
Yeah. Again, you hate to miss on any player, but Matt, it would be extra painful if you miss on a guy because he simply doesn't possess that, he doesn't have that care. That would be that'd be a hard one to swallow. And that's where personnel departments, I think, have gotten better of saying, hey, the talent is the talent. I don't know. That's the hardest part of scouting. It's the other stuff where you invest in more of your time.
Oh, 100%. And it's being able to get around the person, is being able to get around multiple people that are close to the person to paint the full picture. And it might be harder to do now, but the area scout has to do some deep digging to really understand the player and the relationships that you make. And I don't think you've ever been to a pro day with me down at LSU, but that's the relationships. I just remember going down to LSU so many times and being able to talk to those young players, and the young players could give you information on the old players. And, Jamal Adams and I had a special relationship, and he could give me the thumbs up and thumbs down on players because, like, regardless of whatever he was and whatever he became as a pro, that dude loved ball at one point. I mean, loved it, lived it, couldn't stop. And man, I just think it's hard for those guys to fail. And if I'm a fail on a pick, I at least want to fail on a pick where I feel like, man, this dude is doing everything in his power to make it happen. The guys who don't care about it, those are the ones that are frustrated.
All right, Buck, you're talking about some of the top defensive fronts in the NFL here. Fill me in.
Yeah, okay, so I'm doing this project that's going to be on the notebook this week. You can check it out on NFL.com. Where we're talking about the top defensive fronts. And it came off a conversation with Baldy where Baldy had a chance to see Abdul Carter in the preseason. And Abdul Carter does what Abdul Carter does.
Wreck
and he
and shop.
dominated
Yeah.
wreck and shop. So then you start thinking about the Giants and what the Giants potentially could trot out and force them up front. Dexter Carter on the inside. You got Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Abdul Carter. And Amir the Rose just kind of wrecking shop. So you're like, man, you know what's funny about the Giants is whenever the Giants have had a Super Bowl team, they've always had that kind of group up front. Justin Tuck and Matthias Kiwanuka, Osi Umenyiora, Michael Strahan, even back in the day, Carl Banks and Lawrence Taylor and Leonard Marshall. So it let me like, man, like who are some of the top defensive fronts? So I got the Giants in the mix because I'm looking at what they can do. Like, oh man, there are not many people that have an inside pass rusher in Dexter Lawrence who can get you 9 sacks. And then these speed demons on the outside. But then I went to Minnesota. I'm looking at the new and improved Minnesota where you have Harrison Phillips on the inside, but they go and get a Jonathan Allen. They get Javon Hargrave to go with what they already had, and Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel.
Yeah.
Like, DJ, that's a lot of sack production. And Brian Flores dialing up pressures to make sure they get one-on-ones. And then finally, I'm looking at the Houston Texans, who found a way to get Will Anderson. You get Daniil Hunter. I mean, just those two alone makes it formidable. And then you got some big guys inside. Look, we talk about this being a passing league and how the premium positions are always the passers, the pass rushers, the protectors, and the playmakers. Man, if you don't have pass rushers at multiple spots on a team, you have no shot of being able to win at the highest level.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up those teams because Houston, of all the teams I saw in person last year, doing the Charger games, to me, I always talk about like, do you feel it? Like if you're talking about receivers, talking about Marvin Harrison, can you feel his speed? Houston, you felt their front, Buck. Like they are up the field. It is attack all day long. And that's the problem. Danico Autry's in that mix as well. So that group, that I have no problem whatsoever saying I will put that group right, if not at the very top, then right near the very top. I don't know if anybody else I would take over that front. The other group I would add, off the top of my head, I think Pittsburgh's got a chance, not only with talent, but with depth. They've got a lot of waves of guys they can throw at you.
Oh, I mean, look, you got TJ Watt, who's always in play for Defensive Player of the Year.
TJ Watt, Cam Hayward is the vet, the stalwarts, but you got a whole bunch of other guys in there.
Man, DeMarvin Neal, like they have done a really good job of like fortifying those guys. And then you think about what Derek Harmon can do in that group
Keanu
and how they get him back.
Good player.
Because
they've got a bunch of dudes.
Right, because we know multiple people in those buildings and what they're looking for. DJ, there is a toughness and an edginess that those guys have that keep the Pittsburgh Steelers in play for sure.
Yeah, and then again, it's like I think you kind of have the high-end talent guys and the wave teams. The Eagles have a good mix, when Jalen Carter's on his game and rolling.
Yes.
And then they just got waves to throw at you.
And young athletic waves. The funny thing is when you go back and you look at their depth chart, Jalen Carter is kind of like the crown jewel. And then you have a bunch of just like good players.
Bees.
Like,
they got a bunch of bees.
Like who's the next notable name? Who's the next one that we're going to tout from that group? But yeah.
What about Denver? What about Denver, Buck? Did they not get close in your thinking there?
They're close. Look, Zach Allen. How about this? Like, I just think
you got a good group, man.
Man, really good group. But how about DJ? What people might have thought about him coming out and what he's become. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the league is so funny because it takes the right spot, the right scheme, the right environment, and man, guys can just completely blow up. He's a terrific player too. You're right.
Yeah, well, there's some good options to choose from there. I just, again, from just being in that building, and maybe it was the fact it was the playoffs, it was loud, but I mean they got off the rock, man. Like,
they're fast, and I'll say this: I think D'Amico Ryans is underrated in terms of like he has some of that dog to him. I think people get fooled by the nice guy persona and how he comes off, but he has a way of kind of cracking the whip and getting those guys going because they do play at a frenetic pace, particularly at home.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Matt Burke has ever interviewed for a head coaching job. I don't think I've seen that. But
Not,
Burke is I think he went to
he's been
Ivy
around.
League. I think he went to Dartmouth. He's been around a lot of good coaches, and they have a dominant group there. Maybe he's a name that gets circulated here in this next coaching cycle, but they got a good defense. Not to mention, you go to the back end, and the pieces they have in the secondary are pretty darn good too.
Man, you talk about it. DJ, that gives you a chance. So when everyone is hemming and hawing and ready to try and find somebody else in the South, I was like, you can't put anybody over the Texans until you find someone that can deal with that defense.
Yeah.
And the quarterback on a bounce back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, Buck, did you do anything on the what else did you have going on, man?
No, that's it. Like, I'll get to the secondary. You already mentioned some of those guys in the secondary. You talk about Houston. Pittsburgh is going to be a conversation you have there. The Denver Broncos have to be in that conversation. Like, just thinking about the rich getting richer, Jahdae Barron joining a group that has Pat Surtain already in the mix, and they got some playmakers all around. I mean, the Eagles and what they're doing with that young crew. I mean, it's crazy. They get rid of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but they may not skip a beat when it comes to how they play in the backside.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that the Eagles have some stars, some individual stars. But man, they're whipping people with depth, man. They just got a lot of dudes that can play everywhere. Just
overwhelm you. And basketball has done this, where we saw like the strength in numbers. We saw how the Pacers were able to get to Oklahoma City. There's something to being able to. We talked about what a bunch of B's. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if I had 10 B's and you only have 1 or 2 A's, I'm gonna wear you out. I'm gonna wear you down in time. There's a lot to that.
Yeah, no question. All right, this has been a good one, man. Looking forward to getting out to some preseason games this weekend. We got college football right around the corner as well, so maybe jump into that a little bit next week. But we'll be back to recap everything we see on the preseason front, see some of these young quarterbacks as well. We'll always keep an eye on those guys. We appreciate you. See you next time right here on Move the Sticks.